everyone, how we doing? Random little post here. I guess not post, upload. So I never posted a review on Venom. I will say, like in many cases, I tended to agree with the critics, but my opinions also tend to run like kind of between the critics and the audiences. I like to take their median score and like kind of typically that tends to be kind of where I lie. I didn't think it was awful, but I definitely didn't think it was phenomenal. I thought the tone was weird. I guess the tones were weird. The pacing was weird, and some of the characters were really dumb. But Venom himself and Tom Hardy himself both absolutely killed it. I would have liked to see Jenny Slate have more of a part in the movie. Maybe cut Anne out significantly and have Jenny Slate be the love interest, or even just do without a love interest, because not every single movie needs to have a love interest, which for some reason seems to be the case every time. But I digress. So Venom could have been better, could have been a lot worse. But the question we're going to answer today is how it could be situated within some version of the MCU, or, you know, how we could see something along those lines work out. First, it's important to say that there's no way that the MCU as it stands right now, or at least how it stood prior to the ending of Infinity War, there's no way that that's what Venom took place in, because there is a use of the phrase first contact in Venom, which means there weren't any aliens beforehand. So New York wouldn't have happened. The invasion of New York, Battle for New York, and the Avengers would never have happened. So I have two kind of theories that could work with this. First is Venom takes place in a pre-Avengers universe. So it's like a lot of the advancements that have been had after, or I guess throughout the MCU, haven't really happened. S.H.I.E.L.D. was around, but kind of was not super present. This one's a little weaker. But my other theory is that the events of either Infinity War or Avengers 4 kind of create this weird thing where there's a universe where the invasion of New York didn't happen. So they kind of like hit a reset button and just like a bunch of things are changed. Certain people are still dead and all that. But Spider-Man isn't one of them. And so Venom takes place, I don't know if you might recall if you didn't see it or whatever, but the timing between the Life Foundation ship crashing down on Earth and Venom receiving, I guess, Eddie receiving Venom, it's 6 months. And so, spoiler alert for Far From Home, and if you don't know what Far From Home is, don't watch any more of this. Spidey's in New York, not in New York, sorry, he's in Europe with S.H.I.E.L.D. basically, like looking around for something or other. I don't know what the connection is or what's going on. But my idea would be Spider-Man is under the employment of S.H.I.E.L.D., but not being told fully what's going on. And basically they're trying to find Venom. And, issues with that would be that if there weren't an invasion of New York, there arguably wouldn't have been a suit that Tony made for Peter, among other things, but it's a complicated thing, the way time works. So maybe I'm wrong about that. Truthfully, there are not many ways that Venom actually takes place within some form of the MCU. But what's interesting is the introduction of the Spider-Verse, which alone as a film already implies that there's different Spider-Man universes, but especially given the post-credit scene of Venom, which is just a clip from Into the Spider-Verse for those of you who didn't see it or don't care or maybe wanted to be reminded or whatever the hell. And it says that it takes place in a different universe or dimension or something. So, that means that Venom takes place within some sort of multiversal construct, and we know because of Doctor Strange and because of Ant-Man and other things that there are different dimensions and verses and whatnot. So I don't know what's going to happen so that the X-Men are included in the MCU, or so that the Fantastic Four are included in the MCU, or, you know, Venom. But if it's something to do with some sort of, I don't know, interdimensional vibration that like kind of makes things weird or whatever, and includes people from different universes and blah blah blah, timelines, I don't know. I personally would love to see Tom Hardy as Venom wind up in the MCU, just because I loved Tom Hardy and I loved Venom. And also because creating another Venom might be difficult. But I think that if Marvel Studios decided that they wanted to do a Venom thing and they couldn't use or wouldn't use Eddie Brock's, Tom Hardy's Venom, not that he like owns the character like RDJ owns Tony Stark basically. I can see them making their own thing and have it be pretty interesting. The Venom we saw in Spider-Man 3 was really toned down as far as Venom goes in appearance and all that. Like he looked he looked like the black Spider-Man suit from Spider-Man 3, but with like gross teeth and stuff. Venom in this movie looked fantastic, but he did have some elements that were represented accurately in some versions of the comics, but inaccurately in some other versions, and also, you know, different media. So, for example, he didn't have like a purple hue or tint or whatever. He didn't have the like kind of crescent that appeared over his eyes that made it look like he had kind of like a pupil type thing. He didn't have like the design that was just a design and then like smaller eyes that are actually there. So there's a lot of artistic directions they could take to differentiate between the Venoms, between the MCU and Sony's Venom, and have it look cool enough to where it might draw attention. And again, I think the only way they can really have, maybe not again, but the only way they can really have a different version of Venom is if they really lean into the different universes and play along with the concepts introduced within Into the Spider-Verse. And I like those. I think that they're kind of ahead of the game a bit, given the way DC might be approaching doing their storytelling. Not that I have any idea what they're actually going to do, nor am I even close to invested as I am in the MCU. I'm stoked for Joker though, but this is all, I'm kind of derailing a bit. In any case, the one thing that I'd really, 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 really appreciate, but is very unlikely to happen, is I would have loved to have seen Andrew Garfield in the Venom movie as Spider-Man or Peter Parker or whatever, or within that same universe. I think that the two universes, not only because they're created by Sony, but likely because they're both created by Sony, they're two very similar, kind of like more dark and I don't want to say uninspired, but kind of clinical approaches to storytelling. But in any case, I think that the fun that you could have with Andrew Garfield and Tom Hardy, and how those two universes could mix together, could work very well. And it's a shame that we probably won't see anything similar because of the kind of bad footing that Andrew Garfield left Sony with as far as Spider-Man goes. I've seen theories floated around that maybe they could use Into the Spider-Verse's Peter Parker. I personally don't really like that idea, because you're drawing in different crowds and whatnot. Whereas I guarantee you most people who saw Venom would have likely seen the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. I'm not sure I can say the same for the Into the Spider-Verse stuff. What do I know? Final thought on the direction of Venom as far as the actual movie goes, like Sony's Venom. They didn't make it rated R, and maybe that was a smart decision, maybe not. I think that I would have preferred to see rated R Venom to have like deeper themes and more gruesome scenes. Unintentional rhyme there. But I think that starting Venom off as the rated PG-13, borderline rated R movie it was, works, especially because it's called Venom. And I think it'd be very interesting if, especially because the mid-credits scene for Venom was Carnage, and they made that very clear, saying there's going to be Carnage. If they lean into the Carnage aspect, which, if you're going to make a Carnage movie, you have to make it rated R. I think they should just call the next movie Carnage, because you're going to have Venom and then Carnage. And maybe it could be I don't know what, I know trilogy's trilogy, but I don't know if it's bilogy or duology or whatever it would be, but Carnage being the sequel to Venom would be good. Like, just calling it Carnage and making it rated R, and having Carnage be that super rated R version of Venom, and having Venom still remain kind of PG-13y within even that movie. But, you know, what do I know? Nothing. So yeah, if you liked anything I said, feel free to give this a like. If you disliked anything I said, please let me know why, or what you'd suggest instead. I really do like discussing these kinds of things, and I have not so much a desire to be right or to prove anyone wrong or whatever, but just like to really air out how these different directions could possibly go, because I'm just really invested in the MCU and different stuff related to Marvel movies. I'm probably gonna make a DC movie video type thing soon. I'm interested in what's going on with that, but I don't really know much about it. I know that Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be coming out at some point. I know that Aquaman's coming out. Shazam, I think, looks more promising than Aquaman. Just tonally and all that, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Aquaman, I think, will be fun too, but the trouble with Aquaman was he was in Justice League, and I wasn't a huge fan of Justice League, and I'm not sure what's going on with Ben Affleck or with Henry Cavill, and I'm not entirely sure how they're going to work everything out. But I don't know why I'm talking more about it, because that's going to be a different video I'm going to make. Have a great night, and or a great day, or a great afternoon, or whatever time it is, wherever you're at. Have a great one, or whatever that is. I'll catch ya.